Well, let's dig that deeper, and are now joined by Reverend Musyimi, who's the chair of the Task Force on the Review of Legal and Regulatory Framework Governing Religious Organizations. Good evening, Reverend. Good to see you. Just first question for me. Could you just give me the highlights of that report that you've handed in today and how that would be significantly different with the environment that we have today of governing religion in the country?
Well, good evening. Well, I would say the highlight is the recommendation to have a specific law dedicated to religious organizations. As you probably are aware, currently all religious organizations come under the Societies Act, and there are huge gaps in that act that make it easy for people to do all manner of things, as we have seen. So when we went around, and we did go around, we studied, we did a lot of analysis, we visited all the counties, we listened to religious leaders, we listened to people in government, people in intelligence, and so on and so forth. It was quite obvious that the Societies Act, as it is today, will not sufficiently address the issues that we are now dealing with. I mean, mind you, we must look at Shakahola against the historical backdrop of the bomb blast of 1998 that killed 220 people. Next week it will be 26 years that was, of course, attacking the American embassy. You must think of the Garissa University College attack, the Westgate attack, the Dusit attack, and now Shakahola. So, I mean, there have been things happening, and it was time now to, and it's very good that the president did see the need now to give this assignment to somebody who could then make recommendations. And that's one of the many recommendations that we have made, Mr. Smart.
Right. Reverend, one of the criticism that has been on religious organizations, especially the proliferation of many churches, if you like, the question has been that the church has been unable to sort of safeguard itself against this proliferation of churches, and others would even take advantage of Kenyans. In that respect, then, are you confident that this proposal that you've put together, put forward, will solve this question, where it's a question of faith vis-a-vis a question of reason and governance?
Well, once you have a statute dedicated to religious organizations, it's a completely new ball game, because now the registration protocols change, standards change, and all manner of things that are normally required of registered organizations change. And so we are, for example, going to, in the interest of safeguarding the freedom, as the president himself rightly pointed out, it has been recommended that we use umbrella organizations to be the ones that bring about the self-regulations of the member churches in the case of the Christian sector. But that will not be enough. We also see the need to have government input, and that's why we are talking about a commission that then, through intelligence, if matters come up, that commission that has religious people sitting in it, government people sitting in it, but led by the religious sector in the chair, so that there is a kind of a convergence of government and the religious sector, so that the information that is gathered doesn't just sit in some place. That it is analyzed, it is actionable, and the religious sector itself is involved. So you have self-regulation, but you also have the arm of government involved in this convergence of responsibility.
Right, Reverend. How would you say, for those who want to push back against these recommendations and say, first, government has no place in religious matters, self-regulation was working, and in fact, sort of the big churches or the big organizations or churches, if you like, are trying to get rid of the small ones, if you like. How do we deal with that? How do you sort of answer that pushback?
You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't say that it's not working, and then at the same time, if a solution is fronted, you then ask, how is it going to work? What we have what we observed is, as you rightly say, a proliferation of churches, especially. Let's talk about churches, and I'm sure it's also happening with other faiths, but especially churches. And you have all manner of churches. I don't need to say more. We have seen them, and not always sure about the leadership, the training, if any, the calling, if any, and so on and so forth. So if you let it as is, you are going to end up with Shakahola today and another Shakahola tomorrow. So there has got to be, government can't just sit and watch, because it has a responsibility of safeguarding those that are worshipping in that church and others that are not, but might be affected. And our assignment was, how do you deal with this problem without taking away the freedoms that these institutions are given by the Constitution? And that's why we said the only way you can do it is demand that they join umbrella organizations, even that they don't have to comply because they are free not to join, but incentivize them so that they see the need to join. And then create a commission where, as I said, and at the risk of repeating myself, you have a commission, let's say, of about 9 people, 5 of whom are from the religious sector, and let's say 4 from government. You've got to have intelligence people out there. You've got to have people who have the capacity to say what sort of, how decisions made can be enforced, with, of course, the involvement of the religious sector, so that it's a delicate balance. Let's be honest, it's a very delicate balance, but it's a proposal, and it will go out for public hearing, and let's see what the Kenyans say. I think that's why we're having this interview.
Absolutely, and my final question to this is exactly from where you stopped your final answer is, do you think there is enough political will to see this through? Do you think the country is ready for such a radical proposal to essentially have a legal framework that hasn't existed before to manage what is essentially has been left a matter of faith for the last 50, 60 years?
If you tell me that you are scared of cure that has been proposed, I'm more scared of the dangers that I see after Shakahola. I went to Shakahola, and I come from the church sector. I know what I saw as General Secretary of NCCK for 14 years, and what I saw coming. And if you tell me that government just sits and watches, that's very scary. There must be a way of finding a solution. And this is a proposal. It may not be the best proposal, but let's put it out there. Let us discuss it. Let us discuss it and finally come up with an instrument that will deal with a problem that is now beginning to become a really serious problem.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Reverend Musyimi, Chair, Task Force on the Review of Legal Regulatory Framework on Funding Religious Organizations. Thank you very much for your time. Obviously, this is just the beginning, and there would be many, many more.